Hello and welcome to Superpower Broadcasting. I'm Kevin Castley. Thanks for tuning in today. So, we got a submission here. This clip was sent to me by Jim. Thank you for sending this to me. And this is a fantastically stupid clip from Nazbol Nick Fuentes, guy who calls himself America First. Just another data point proving that America First actually means America last and the West last, and always, of course, the enemies of freedom first. So let's take a look at the clip and then we can discuss. So here we are. And you'll note, I mean, everything about this guy is ridiculous. His proportions are ridiculous. His green screen is obnoxious. It's just a binge of cringe all around. So here we go.
And if you think about the American Revolutionary War, or the Civil War, or the Russian Revolution, or the Iranian Revolution, many times when entrenched regimes are displaced, it doesn't happen only from within. I don't know that we could really pull ourselves up from our own bootstraps. In the American Revolution, it was largely with the help, either, in terms of non-interference or active support from foreign countries that allowed us to win the war for independence. In the Civil War, the Confederacy was broken because they could not get support from foreign countries. If the American Confederacy had support from France or other European countries, there's a chance that they could have won the war against the North. And the same goes for many other similar conflicts over the course of American and world history. So all of this is to say, we've got to look at the bigger picture and think big. The American regime hates you. It's spying.
Hold on. I like that choice, that verbiage, regime, right? Now that term in and of itself is actually neutral. You can use it to refer to any government. You could talk about the British regime, for example, but in colloquial usage, the connotations that that term bears are one of course, dystopia, authoritarianism, despotism, not really democracy and liberalism, right? Now, why does Nick Fuentes refer to America as a regime? The same reason that all the Kremlin networks refer to America as a regime. It's basically no you, except it falls flat, right? Because America actually is a democracy. So when you say, oh, yeah, well, you call North Korea regime, but your regime, it's like, yeah, but we know what you're doing. You're trying to do, well, he's not even trying to do a false equivocation. He's trying to say that America's worse. And we're going to continue with the video, but I just wanted to point that out.
On you, it's persecuting you, it wants to kill you,
it's spying on you, it wants to kill you. The reason why the US monitors internet traffic, that kind of stuff, is to actually save lives. It's to protect against terrorism. If the US government wanted you to die, the US government never would have passed the Patriot Act. So
to put you in jail. It wants to take your stuff and give it to other people. It does not want you alive. So why then would you go?
So it's almost a taxes theft argument, except Nick Fuentes is kind of a distributist. So he's not a libertarian. That's kind of weird.
Go and cheer it on against Russia. Why then would you go on the State Department that's occupied with a lot of Jewish people?
Oh, yeah, and of course, have to throw in the anti-Semitism. He's Nazbol Nick. We all know he hates Jews, right? He's a Nazi, so great, lovely.
State Department occupied by hardcore left-wing people, radical BLM activists, gay people, and trans people that hate you and want you in jail and work to do that. Why?
How many trans people are there in the State Department? I don't know. I've never looked into it before. Maybe somebody who's got more time on their hands could look into the figures. Not that it matters. So what if there are trans people in the State Department? Who cares? What matters is their foreign policy. And lately, with Tony Blinken and Joe Biden, their foreign policy has been meek and weak. It's been sad and pathetic. It's been dismal. They've surrendered to the Taliban in Afghanistan. They're leaving Afghanistan. Hashtag White Flag Joe. But Nick Fuentes supports that. Nick Fuentes supports Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan. So what's his problem? Seems like they're doing everything that he would want. He's an isolationist. They're abandoning the world. So
why would you root for the State Department in their negotiations with China or Russia?
okay, well, I just criticized the State Department, but just because my criticism of them is that they're weak with respect to America's enemies doesn't mean that I all of a sudden would then support America's enemies. It's kind of straightforward and obvious, except to Nick Fuentes, he's on their side. He is with the enemy. Make no mistake.
Out of some misplaced sense of patriotism? Well, I put my country over party. No, what you're doing is putting the American regime over your own people. The State Department is not the country. Newsflash, Washington.
Oh yeah, StreamYard does not like Nick. No, that's crazy. And, oh, you're putting the regime over the people. That's what Russia and China do. It's not what the United States does. The U.S. government is elected by, or at least the executive branch. The president's elected by the people. President appoints people. So if you don't like the people that the president appoints, you can vote for somebody else. So, well.
Washington, D.C. is not the country. These sick people that are in the government, these forever bureaucrats who are never elected, who hate America, don't believe in America, don't believe in nations for that matter, they are not America. That's not putting country over party. So when I look at the American delegation to the United Nations or to these summits with Russia or China, I'm not cheering them on because they don't represent me. They're not me. They represent a parasitic occupation over our country. So fuck.
No, so here's the thing, right? You know who does represent Nick Fuentes? Sergei Lavrov, Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, and their foreign ministers. That's who Nick Fuentes feels represented by. He's the fifth column. He can get the hell out.
Fuck them. And go Russia and go China and Iran and all of it.
So this video is titled "He Supports Russia, China, and Iran over America." Well, you might say, "Oh, you're taking him out of context." I know that's what they're going to say. They're going to say, "Oh, you should watch his video. You shouldn't just slander him." He just admitted, "Go Russia, go China, go Iran." This is a guy, by the way, that would have you think he's against communist China. He would have you think he wants to combat the Chinese communists. But no. He's said before, give me full communism over Trump, for example. So understand something. He is a socially deeply conservative person who roots for communism over capitalism. He's somebody who finds partners throughout the world, regardless of left and right, as long as they despise America and the West. In that sense, Nick Fuentes is basically like Noam Chomsky. It's basically like an anti-Semitic and, more overtly mask off racist version of Noam Chomsky, who's a progressive. But they both support any regime that's against the United States.
That's the takeaway from this stuff. And people got to wisen up because now what I see Republicans doing, like I said earlier in the show, is they're diverting all this energy to China. And they're saying China's the problem. It's Chi-Coms. Chi-Com this, Chi-Com that. In a very similar way with Russia, you're going to see in the next decade, the American regime is going to ratchet up the pressure on China. Russia's got the sanctions regime. Russia's got all this propaganda directed at it about election fraud and all this kind of stuff. You're going to see that increasingly directed against China. Barack Obama had the pivot to Asia, where they reoriented some of our security posture to the Pacific away from the Middle East. Why? To pressure China. What was TTP and TTIP? What is it, TPP or TTP? TPP, TTIP, and TISA. What were those three trade negotiations or trade agreements about? It was about financially containing China in the Pacific. That was under the Obama administration. That was under a Democratic administration. And so this myth of Beijing Biden and the Democrats are going to help the Chi-Coms and everything like that, very quickly you are going to see that that is a mirage. The American...
Well, see, here's the thing. He's not like your standard Republican hack, because they would basically try to say that Biden is Beijing Biden. No, Biden's done some stuff to counter China. That's true. And he's moved for more integration with the Quad. And he's also done some protectionist economic policies that are good. But he's also leaving Afghanistan, which is going to help China. So it's nuanced. Nick Fuentes is saying, oh, they're going to go hard after China in the next 10 years. Great. That's good. Why would we be supporting communist China? Are you a communist? But of course, if you said that to Nick Fuentes, he would say, of course, give me full communism over what we're doing now. That's the quote from him. You can go and check out one of my videos. I went over that about a couple years ago when he went into his communist apologetics.
The American regime is going to go hard against China like they've gone hard against Russia. And for the same reason, we will stand to gain if China increases in influence like we now gain from Russia increasing in influence. Because Vladimir Putin is doing more to stick up for the Capitol rioters that are in solitary confinement.
So an enemy of America is supporting insurrectionists and fifth columnists within America. Colorly surprised. Shocker.
Than our own Republican congressman. And what does that tell you? It doesn't matter why he's doing it, he's doing more than they are. He's doing more to speak up for our rights than our own politicians, our own representatives, even the based ones, even the so-called based and red-pilled ones, with notable exceptions like Paul Gosar, who's
based and red-pilled. Okay. So we're basically back in 2015. That's cool. That's a throwback. Some nostalgia there for y'all.
The best congressman in Congress. But where's Kevin McCarthy? Where's the Senate, or rather the House minority leader? Where's the Senate minority leader? Mike Pence, Donald Trump, hello. Putin has done more to speak up about the Capitol rioters than Donald Trump. And the Capitol rioters were there to defend the integrity of Donald Trump's own election. And I'm supposed to say, oh, I'm a real patriot. That means I support the FBI and the CIA and the State Department and their negotiations with Russia. Yeah, F that.
Yeah, that is what that's supposed to mean. If you're a patriot, you support your own country over those that aim 8,000 nuclear weapons at you. But of course, Nick Fuentes is not a patriot. He is a fifth columnist. So there you go.
You know, I hope that Russia puts bounties on the heads of, like, you know, CIA or whatever. That story.
Oh, and there he is. That's the point as well. I forgot about that. He supports an enemy of America assassinating members of the Central Intelligence Agency. Are you kidding me? So we know he's on a no-fly list, but I'm surprised the feds haven't done more to monitor this guy, honestly. Because how do we know he's not going to actively work with the enemies of America to undermine the American government? He's admitting he wants that. So why would it be a surprise if he actually went about doing that himself?
Wasn't true about, oh, they're putting bounties on the heads of soldiers in Afghanistan. That would be bad. But, like, thank God for dead American spies. Honest to God, you know, that I'm going to...
Thank God for dead American spies? But then he tries to say that he's a true patriot? Calls himself America first. See, this is the thing, right? They're America last. They actually root for Russia first. They root for Iran first. They root for China first. He admits it.
Go, oh...
Because there are trans people in America.
Yeah, our boys over there fight Russia in Ukraine, so we don't fight them over here.
Well, yeah, that's how it works. That's like what John Bolton said. You deal with the threat and contain the threat, because if you don't contain the threat expands, and then don't be surprised when it's on your border and when it comes to invade you directly, the threat has the upper hand because you let it take over the world and you still only have the United States. Duh. It's called containment. Worked against the Soviets. We should be doing that against Russia and China.
No, screw these people. Screw these people in the State Department and these intel agencies, honestly.
Well, screw you, Nick. Go live in Russia. Go live in China. Go live in North Korea. Go live in Iran. What are you doing here? Why do you have an Empire State Building in your background? That's the only thing that Nick Fuentes and I have in common. He has an Empire State Building in the background on his set, too. Now, mine's like a real model. His is just a cringy green screen. But you see what he's going for, right? But he actually should have, an image of the Kremlin in the background. That's what he should have. Just own it. Just own it. Say, yes, I'm a fifth columnist. I support Russia, even though I live in America. And I hate American patriots. Just say that. Say that. Say that you're with the Russians. At least have the courage to say how you feel.
Who are we kidding? These people are killers. These people are murderers. Murderers.
Murderers. It's not murdering to kill enemy combatants and enemy agents. Look up the term murder. Murder doesn't just mean to kill somebody. Duh.
And a lot of them are involved in activities far worse than that. And we know that, and they know that. So, anyway, so that's Russia. Like I said, Russia, China, these are state actors. They're no different, really. They're not more principled. They're not more moral. But our interest and their interest happens to overlap. Unlike our interest and the American regime's interest, which does not overlap at all.
So when he's saying "are" there, he's referring to him and the Groypers, the far right, economically left, Nazbol incels. Those guys' interests overlap with Moscow and Beijing. In other words, they're down with fascism and communism. They're against liberalism and capitalism. Surprise, surprise. They're against freedom. They're against democracy. They're against liberalism. They support communism, fascism, ultra conservatism. So there you go. That's him admitting he's a fifth columnist.
Which are actually diametrically opposed. But anyway, not advocating for violence, by the way. I'm not advocating for violence against the government. I'm not advocating for violence against the intel agencies.
Not in this video, at least. We'll see. He's said stuff when he's a lot more unhinged in the past, so.
I'm just saying I fucking hate them, and, when I see bad things happen to them, I smile. That's all. I'm not advocating for violence. I would never do that.
Except not really. You are condoning it. You are saying it's good. So, cool legal protection, I guess. Whatever.
I'm not a violent person, and I'm a Christian, so I'm against violence. But
oh yeah, my Christianity. Therefore, I support a regime in China that's killed 100 million people. He said it himself here. He said they're not more moral than the United States. Well, obviously, they're not more moral than the United States. But what's inherent there is this false equivocation, right? He didn't say they're less moral. He's been making the case that they're the better actor. He said that America's worse than China. So, the regime, again, that's killed like 100 million people since 1949. Oh, but he's a Christian, so he doesn't support America and wars, bro. He supports communism and fascism. Lovely.
I see these stories and I have to chuckle. I see these stories. Oh, Agent down. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo.
Yeah. That's Nazbol Nick Fuentes right there. What an absolute disgrace. Absolute mascot fifth column. And it should be obvious to everybody at this point, yet he still has some defenders, remarkably. So thank you for tuning in. If you want to support what I do, check me out over on Ko-Fi, PayPal, and Patreon. The links are in the description below. And I will see you in the next video. So take care and stay based.